Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Pedigree Radio. I'm your host, Jared Golnitz. We're first going to take a look at the pedigrees of this week's test winner, Separation of Powers, and Whitney Handicap winner, Diversify. Diversify only shows a set of very typical doubles of Northern Dancer and Mr. Prospector on the surface at 5 generations. And however, as we'll dive into the 6th and 7th generations and beyond, it becomes abundantly clear that he has a lot going on in his pedigree, and especially in the Rasmussen factor department. He has lots of Natalma through Northern Dancer and Machiavellian. He has brothers Sir Gaylord and Secretariat, leading to a triple of Something Royal. And Banished Fear is present 4 times through her daughter Not Afraid, who is also the dam of Prince John. And Cosmic Bomb, the dam sire of Halo. Blue Hen Superpowers Special and Leiloon are also present 2 times each. And we also get La Troyenne and Beaming Beauty. Also present in multiples. Bellamy Road, the sire of Whitney Handicap winner Diversify, also carries a double of Prince John already, and Dam Sire Street Cry adds another. From my observations, Prince John is an influence that we as breeders should not ignore. We should return more of him in our mating plantings. He always seems to be very potent, especially when he's combined. For our mares, especially carrying Mr. Prospector. Mr. Prospector and Prince John both carry Champion Correction, and who is a sister to Domino. And so let's also take a look at the test winner, and her name is Separation of Powers. So Separation of Powers is by Candy Ride out of the Empire Maker mare. She Had Me From Hello. I had to double check that because it was all one word and quite long. And so the first thing that appears is a 4-4 of Fabiano, which, as we saw with Gunrunner and some other runners that we've looked at, a double of Fabiano is very potent. And so looking beyond that, we'll go out to, let's say, 7 generations here. Again, this is the test winner, Separation of Powers. And what we find here is, we not only have Fabiano, who is a source of La Troyenne, but we also get Buck Passer here, and we get not only a double, but it looks like a triple of the Blue Hen Mare Grand Splendor, not only through Fabiano, but also through the 3rd dam sire Adrigian. And so you also get the very potent Blue-Eyed Momo and Busanda cross. Again, Busanda is the dam of Buck Passer. But Blue-Eyed Momo is a full sister in blood, what we would call a full sister in blood, to Busanda. And so you get that cross there. And you also get crosses of In Reality in the dam through Empire Maker. And, that also worked well for the dam of Tap It and Tap Your Heels. She was also inbred to In Reality. So, that cross is worth looking at anytime you can get Buck Passer and In Reality together. and it seems to be working quite well. Also to note, adding more Fabiano to not only himself but also to the blushing groom that comes off in Candy Ride also seems to be very effective. And those are your Test and Whitney winners from Saratoga yesterday. We are going to keep this episode pretty short due to some family obligations. But I would like to, at this point, just kind of give a shout out to Kathy Sweeney on the Thoroughbred Racehorse Breeders group on Facebook. And she mentioned, and posted some pictures of Frosted's first foals. And, they of course looked the part, looked good. And, I think we all expect big things from Frosted, given his, dramatic style, stakes record run in the Met Mile a year or two ago. And, we all remember that run pretty well. It was pretty impressive. He won by, I forget how many lengths, but, there was him and then everybody else was seemingly, 5 minutes behind him. So, Frosted is by Tappet out of a Deputy Minister mare. And stands for $50,000 at Darley America at Jonah Bell Farm. And for those of us who don't have $50,000 laying around, I would like everyone to take a good look at Cupid, who stands for $12,500 at Ashford Stud in Kentucky. They have a lot in common, pedigree-wise. So Cupid is out of a mare who has both brothers Vice Regal and Vice Regent, and so therefore that nets you a double of Bunty Lawless, and the same way that Deputy Minister also gets you that double. So one thing that Frosted carries, he has a double Seattle Slew, but he also carries Roberto, and also carries Prince John, who we just talked about earlier. But if you can't afford Frosted's $50,000 fee, we can look at Cupid, who stands for $12,500, or 1/4 of the price of Frosted. Especially if your mare is already carrying Seattle Slew and Roberto, who, seem to work very well with Tappet, given Frosted's success. Frosted is by Tappet out of the Deputy Minister mare Fast Cookie, and, Cupid is out of the Beau Genius mare Pretty and Smart, and Pretty and Smart carries the full brothers, as I mentioned, but, she also carries doubles of the very fast Double J and Bold Ruler, and all through the line, and each her sire and dam. So she is the Cupid is the result of crossing genetic equivalents, and then you go out and get that half brother to Buckpasser, whose name was Boopers. And he's one of the Double J progeny that are in the pedigree. So this cross of Boopers and Buckpasser, who are half brothers, seems to be very very well taken in the pedigree of Cupid, who is definitely not made of Frosted speed, but certainly was no sham as a runner. And definitely was able to run, no question. So, and eventually, won his Grade 1 in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. So, who would I like to see for each of these? Well, one of the things I like to do is, when you get all these pedigrees of the horses and you see multiples of Seattle Slew and Mr. Prospector, you're starting to see doubles of AP Indy Stormcat. I like to play, well, who's not here? And so with Frosted, I think I would like to see some Street Cry. It worked well for Cupid, and you like to kind of borrow from the pedigrees of the other horses that are bred similar, but not the same. Street Cry will offer more Prince John to Frosted, and offers some good Natalma blood as well. Some varied sources of Natalma. Of course, I would like to see Distorted Humor. Distorted Humor doesn't carry any La Troyenne blood, and only carries, he carries Danzig, who's not present in these two, at least that I saw. And so, I like the potency of that cross. And then also, if you get to Cupid, you have Vice Regent and Vice Regal both there, but no Deputy Minister. I would like to see Deputy Minister, mares or maybe Daughters of Awesome again, bred to Cupid. And, in addition to, I'd love to see the Distorted Humor there too, because there's no Danzig, no 49er. I'm a big fan of 49er. And so, you have a lot of options here, but I think, some Stormcat would also be welcome on both sides. There's doesn't appear to be any Stormcat in either of these two. And so, you can do some outcrossing there. Any more sources of Hail to Reason for Frosty would be great. Maybe some Dynaformer, some daughters or granddaughters of Dynaformer would be great there. And, any more Buckpasser that you can get to Frosted would be great, given the success of the crosses of Roberto and Buckpasser. I'd definitely like to see some Freud or some Giant's Causeway added to this mix, giving more Roberto. I think that would be great. As far as Cupid is concerned, let's go out on a limb and maybe add some Nijinsky to this, some Nijinsky and In Reality to this, and say maybe get some Tisway back to these these lines of In Reality that are present in Tappet, and see where that goes. In Reality always seems to love more of himself, and I think that would be a healthy direction to take it, and give it some more speed, and but also keep it within the keep it a classic distance pedigree as well. So as I mentioned, that'll be all for today. I have to cut it short because of a family obligation, but thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week on Pedigree Radio. Until next week, so long.